Pensado's Place is brought to you by
You've got a master of progressive house, a brand new ITL, winners from our Indaba contest. Put your feet up, get some coffee. You're at the place. It's Pensado's Place.
What's up, everybody? Gonna be a great day. The cat we got on today is somebody I've been admiring for a long, long time, and we're gonna discuss the reasons why. We got winners, we got everything. Herb, how you doing?
I'm good.
And it's a great week, man. I'm like.
You flying?
Yeah. You know, my day job is mixing records, and.
Your night job is starting to take over your life a little bit, too.
I just had a great week. I mean, I really did.
We both did.
The new room, got a new studio, and we'll talk more about that.
Yeah. And we'll show it at some time soon.
I feel like a carpenter that just got a new skill saw, you know?
You kind of did,
I guess a skill saw will be a plug-in. I just got a new table saw.
There you go. There you go. And quite a table saw it is.
Yeah.
It has been a good week thanks to our incredible fans and stuff we're going to share with them shortly. Hey, guys, good to see you. We're coming to you as usual from the Art Institute of California, Los Angeles. Hey, Vintage King, an announcement coming very shortly about something we're doing with them in the summer, which you potentially can come to. Hate to tease you,
It's gonna be a blast.
but we'll show you soon. Jason Cropper is in the chat room, so hello to him. Do you have a Stump the Vintage King guy question?
I do. This one's a little bit different and a little bit complex. I might have to refer to my notes on this a little bit, but there's a concept that we keep hearing all the time about every bit in a word length is equal to 6 dB of dynamic gain. So that would be 24-bit would be 144 decibels, which is probably past human hearing, and then 32 would be 192. And then when you get to 64, it goes up to 384 dB of dynamic range. Do we really need that? Can we hear that? Is that an accurate statement? Where am I wrong? Set me straight, like the VK guys always do every week.
So that answer will be there below once we post, and check that out. Also to our Avid guys, we're having some conversations with Avid about a panel and an interesting show we're going to do about some of their stuff upcoming. Some good stuff there, so stay tuned for that. For the last couple of weeks, obviously we've been talking about this great track Matthew Weiss put in through the Indaba thing. We have some winners. Dave has spent the last 4 or 5 days going through these things and making sure he boils it down.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them what you came up with, Dave?
Well, Paul Kaleka, I hope I pronounced that right, Paul, Kaleka was the winner.
Let's give him a round of applause.
Yeah, let's do, because he really did a great job. I loved his intro. I love the way he brought it in.
Yeah.
And Dustin Stallings did a great job, very inventive. Luc Gabriel did a very good job.
So those would be honorable mentions?
The second two are honorable mention, and then Paul won the whole thing.
Paul Kaleka won
But
the whole thing.
I reduced the number of criteria. I judged you guys on creativity, on your balance and ratio, the way you mix and put proportions in there, your EQing skills, your creativity, and if I liked it. And each one of those categories got 10 points. Overall, the scores on this one were a little lower than last time, but the winners were equally as good.
Okay.
So you guys step up your game, check those ITLs, and I expected more from you on this one, and I want to see you really kill it on the next one. Now, if you've got specific questions about why I'm making that statement, hit us up. Hit us up in the places Herb mentioned. I'll jump on and I'll go over those with you. Now, a lot of my ITLs are geared so that you can win these contests, because I listen to a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to lie to you. After about 20 or 30 times, I'm listening for stuff that's unique and different, not just taking what you're given and translating it correctly. You know what I'm saying, Herb?
Absolutely.
So you guys overall did a great job. I'm proud of you, but I think I can get more out of you. You know, you guys, when you go in these contests, you're not just representing yourself; you're representing us. And we as a community, we've got standards now. Step up your games.
Very good. And speaking of that, why don't you introduce the new ITL?
This ITL is in keeping with the tradition we've been doing lately, where a specific technique that I've been using lately that I think you'll find interesting. Today I want to show you how, let's call this an introduction to working with live drums for people that don't normally work with live drums, people that work with programmed drums. That's a long title, okay? But I'm noticing that as we progress in this thing we call mixing, we're using a lot more elements from various genres, you know. So people are giving me a lot more live drums than they used to and that sort of thing. So I want to kind of get you up to speed on that. Now, live drums, usually what you get is you get the top snare, bottom snare, you get an inside kick, you get something a little farther back, you get various toms. The toms can be stereo or individual. But one of the most important things you get is stereo room mics, and what that does is that's what makes the drum sound live. The sound of the drums in a real room are what, to me, are the beauty of live drums. That's why we add reverb to program drums to simulate that sometimes. And then the overhead mics are very useful too, because that's your high-end information. Then usually you get a hi-hat mic. Now, I'm going to start by showing you the basic philosophy. Think of each mic as being optimized for what it was recording by the engineer. So most tracking engineers are pretty good, and the ones that do drums are very good about giving you all the information you need to get a great sound. Now, on the overhead mics and some of the cymbal mics and the room mics, you might get a little muddiness, you might get a little too much rumble, sometimes you get a little brittleness on that track. Now I'm going to solo the room mic, and it doesn't have to be complex. The less the better. Now here's what my room mics sound. A lot of good information, very well recorded. I want to get rid of that boxiness. I want to get rid of a couple of things, and I'm going to compress it. Now, the reason I'm compressing is because I want to lengthen the information that's coming out. In effect, I'm giving the impression that the room was a little bigger. So check this out. So what have we done? We pulled out 9 dB at 800, which is the Chris Lord-Alge frequency. We've boosted a little bit around 3.5K, boosted a little top end. Now I'm going to take the EQ out. Now let me show you what the compression is doing. Let's in and out. Right now in. Okay, and then overall effect. So think of it as we're preparing it. We're chopping vegetables for our stew. We got this little vegetable kind of cleaned up where we want it. Now another important ambient contributor is the overheads. Now the overheads, we've got left and right, and a similar approach. I'm not going to spend as much time, but I'm going to give you a before and after on that. Okay, check these cymbals. That's what we're trying to smooth out. I'm taking some 5K out of the cymbals, and we're taking a little of the 300 mud out. Now, that's the basic essence of the drum sound. So let's get a kick, let's mute these, and let's get a kick and snare going. Okay, now the kicks and snares approach just like you would regular drums. Now I've got some triggers. I'll give you an example of what I'm using with my triggers. Here's the kick I was given. Here's what I'm adding. Snare. Now we've got our kick sound and our snare sound. Let's add in our overhead in our room and see what we've got. Okay, here's the dry sound. Here's the overhead. Here's out, in. Now the room is going to give us the vibe for the drums. Here we go. Exaggerate it. Let me show you what happens if I increase the compression. It changes the timing a little bit, makes it longer. Remember, JJP talked about that. I've got all the toms going to this aux. With toms, I take out a little bit of somewhere between 4 and 8, depending on how they're recorded. Add a little bit of attack in the mid-range at 1.5. Add a little bit higher, and this is what my toms are doing. Without it. Now I'm adding a room sound to this. This is an emulation of the 2016 by Princeton Digital. Now it's contributing quite a bit. Here's without it. Okay, here's with it. Okay, so there's really not much to it. It's just methodically trying to get everything working together, and sometimes experiment with flipping the phase on particular tracks. That'll enhance some things. This track was recorded pretty well. Now here's the whole entire drum track. Okay, so that's pretty much it. It's not that complex. It's not that hard. Just the frequencies you want to work with, or the mud is somewhere between 3 and maybe 6 or 7, 8. You be careful when you add low end. You tend to not want to add the same low end you would in an R&B thing where you're adding 40 and 60 and 80, but you can, depending on what your drum's like. Sometimes it's better to get that from a sample. You want the crack on the snare, and we didn't go into the snare because we've covered those so much. And but the vibe's all in the overheads and in the room mic. So I hope that gets you started, and you're on your way to recording the next Green Day album. Okay, all right.
Hey guys, make sure you use that ITL, both in the future contests that are coming up. We're going to be doing more with Indaba in your personal endeavors. Mixing live drums, an important component where music's going today. And use it and better yourself. That was a good one, Dave.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
is more live drums for dummies.
Oh, okay.
Because
you're not calling our audience dummies.
No, just myself.
Okay.
A lot of times in the urban world, we don't get exposed to those a lot of times. So just want to make sure our urban guys kind of had a little bit of something tailored just to them.
Absolutely.
But the live rock guys will appreciate it too.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to welcome Morgan Page on a number of fronts. One is being able to get the guys who really are game changers in the space is what we always try to do each week, and we got one. Plus, he's a smart guy. We're going to take a look at that stuff. So we want to thank him and welcome to this desk. Welcome, Morgan Page, 3-weight pound. There you go. That's Dave. Nobody picks that up, but David just enjoys it. How are you, man?
Great. Honored to be here.
No. We're more than honored. Mike Sure hooked us up, and here we are. Absolutely. And you're from Vermont to LA to this, right?
That's right. Same place. They're exactly the same, right?
Exactly. No
it's
difference
the dance music
whatsoever.
mecca of Vermont.
Exactly. Maple syrup and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, man. Yeah. So how's it going?
It's great. Yeah, just been busy touring and a little jet lagged, but doing good.
Yeah. Where were you recently?
I was just in Italy for a little while. Wow. Actually, vacation over there. So.
Oh, nice.
But, yeah.
Not so bad, right?
Yeah, not bad.
Not so bad.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Dave, what you got?
Morgan, are you still using your MPC 2000?
No, I use that to prop things up.
You
But right now
retired the boy.
yeah,
his paint
it's keeping
cans.
the foundation of the house up right now.
There we go.
Something I've been curious about, and I think that you're the perfect person to ask this question to, because a lot of the stuff you create has to live in two worlds. When you're writing a song, how much club do you try to put into a song in terms of melodies and lyrics and melodies, and how much pop lyrics and melodies? In other words, that those aren't always working together. Those two concepts. How does that fight win and justify in your head?
It's a constant battle. I mean, every day I think about it, and a lot of guys are doing what I call cheating the vocal, and they're just putting vocals in breakdowns.
Exactly.
Which is great.
It's an afterthought.
It's great because you have you less things fighting for the syncopation and the phrasing, but I really want to have the beat, the verse and the beat together sometimes. I don't want to just cut out all the vocals, and I think a lot of dance music you're hearing these days is you're hearing less vocals. You're not hearing a bridge, you're not hearing verses, you're just hearing a hook. And I think that's cool, but I like to do both, and different songs call for different things.
Some of your biggest successes have had strong melodies, strong singers.
Yeah.
Is the four on the floor beat restrictive to melodies, or is it easier for melodies? It seems like it'd be easier for melodies.
It's great. I mean, I think it's easiest for instrumental track where the lead is an instrument versus a voice, because you don't have a wall of harmonies and things that you have to mix around. And the vocal distorts so quickly when you're mixing. That's the first thing you can hear really distort.
Not if I'm mixing.
Right. Yeah.
but
I think I just cut him off. Yeah,
yeah, me too.
Sorry, Morgan.
But to your point, when I was reviewing your stuff, it was just so refreshing because of the space. It's noticeable that you take care of vocals.
Absolutely.
And that you create this oral landscape around vocals where vocalists can live.
Yeah.
And it actually made it more dancey and cool because I had something else to hang my hat on and go with. But what struck me is how specifically it stood out based on what other people do. So that's an intent.
Right, and everything's different. I mean, there's some songs where it really calls to sidechain the vocals, so everything gels. Sometimes it just sits fine on its own.
Yeah.
I don't know how,
Yeah.
but it's just the frequency ranges. And I really, the vocal's got to be the star, And I think what you're hearing a lot, the big mistake I hear a lot of guys do is they make this amazing banging instrumental track. It's a big club hit, and then they just slap a vocal on it.
Top of
they
it,
don't build around it. So, when I'm doing the album process, I'm shopping around these 3-minute drafts to vocalists. And I'll usually tear it all apart after I get the vocal and build everything around the vocal.
Back up.
But sometimes it stays the same, like with Body Work. That is the song I did with Tegan and Sarah. That was the original instrumental, and we didn't change much. But usually it come back, maybe change the chord progression, the instrument choices, and the sound source is key.
On Body Work, I noticed that you didn't go flavor of the month in terms of a lot of crazy delays and just things going everywhere in the mix. It was very organic. If it were a steak, you let the quality of the steak shine rather than the spices you heaped on it. Was that intentional?
Yeah, it was intentional to keep it simple, and that was a Prophet 08 synth I used on it, and I wanted it to be, because those chords to me were a hook in their own, in their own right, and I really wanted that to shine with the vocals. I mean, I think in some ways it can be, even the synth can be hookier than the vocal in some cases. Usually I want the vocal to be the main hook.
Very honest, very honest.
Yeah.
Tegan and Sarah, whew, wow.
Yeah, they're doing amazing things.
So good.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
twins, right?
Yeah.
There's a joke there somewhere. I'm gonna let it slide. I always wondered, like we've got dun 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 1 2 3, but on the ands 1 and 2 and 3 and the eighth notes, like some of the songs that I call that kind of like a reggae beat, but it's just the the upbeat, the eighth notes. Is it harder to write a melody when you accent the eighth notes, as opposed to accenting just the 4 downbeats?
I think it's more restrictive if your chords and your bass are all on that up note, and that's cool. I mean, that's maybe more of a 2007, 2008 progressive house kind of style, and it's cool. And actually, I've done some stuff recently like that because I missed that sound. But I think it's more interesting when you have.
You did it really well, though. I can't remember. Golly, I should have slept. But you emphasized the 1 in such a way that it didn't really well, it never bothers you, but it gave a better flow or a different flow, because I love the upbeat thing too, the ands.
And I think it also depends on the vocals. Where is the vocal hitting? And some vocalists, I think there's like an Avicii track I heard where the vocalist is swinging their vocal in a really weird way, and almost like a waltz. And it wasn't a time signature thing. It was just the phrasing was really odd. But it was cool. It worked. It's different, you know.
Did you? Are you self-taught in terms of your application of vocals and what it is? Did you study? Where did it come from?
Everything's self-taught. You know, I went to Emerson in Boston, Emerson College, and worked doing a radio show there. But it was all self-taught. I took one audio course. That's how I got into Pro Tools initially. Right now I'm using Pro Tools and Ableton kind of equally. But yeah, you know, I got started with a sound design for film course.
Really?
And
wow.
Yeah, and just got hooked on Pro Tools, and we had Waves plugins in the radio station. And I just got addicted to that stuff.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Wow.
You know, that makes sense, because a lot of your intros and your bridges, which are spectacular, both have that film kind of, but they have that kind of film noir. Did I say that right? Film noir.
Absolutely.
That kind of dark kind of. You like that dark thing in your music too. I like that.
Well, it's funny. In my notes, I put aural, AURAL, landscape, because it feels like there's these moods and these shifts and stuff that sit around those vocals and stuff. It's really impressive. Yeah.
But another compliment in the bridges, when you do that, somehow that morphs into tension. I don't know how you can get this like image of a beautiful something. Not beautiful is the wrong word, but just ethereal. And then all of a sudden it creates tension. Then you dump me into the vamp, and I'm like, ah. But going back to this dark thing. Everything you do has a balance to it, which is what I like about it. If this were cereal, it's just enough milk, just enough cornflakes. And you tend to have an uplifting quality in a lyric when you have a darker track, and you tend to kind of, is that just the way you think, or is that intentional?
A lot of times it is. I mean, I just go on instinct and on gut, and I try to work as fast as I can. You know, a song may take a week, or it may take several months, but I think it's always important to have that contrast. So if you have a vocalist like with Tegan and Sarah, the voice is a very different timbre from like Lissy or Angela McCluskey. There's a certain sawdust quality to a lot of vocalists that I use, but Tegan and Sarah were very different. It's more indie, it's a little more shrill, it's just a different way to mix, and you have to choose the right instruments for the right voice. So I just try to think of contrast, and that's why I bring guys like Terry Grant in, acoustic guitars, electric guitars, when it calls for it to sort of gel with those synthetic layers.
Is that Terry Grant on Fight For You right after the...
Yeah.
That's the coolest lick in everything I've ever heard you do. I wish you'd turned it up. It's so cool. I thought it was Terry. He's a Nashville cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way you use him, is that him on the song with the dobro in it too?
Yeah. On Longest Road. The original mix, and the mix that got the most famous mix was the Deadmau5 one that got nominated for a
That's
Grammy,
a good mix.
And it was amazing because he stripped everything down to its core.
But you left out the dobro.
Right.
That was the coolest part.
Yeah.
The damn dobro in a dance song, Herb.
That's funny. But as you think that way, is everything you do informed by everything else you do? Like when you play live and you're doing touring, does that inform your songwriting, and does your mixing and remixing and all the different artists, does that all continue to shape the Morgan Page philosophy?
Yeah, I'm constantly breaking down my technique and rebuilding, and like now I'm trying to make the stuff really cut well at the festivals, and really, everything kind of gets to the point, and there's no fluff in there. So, I mean, you're seeing songs get shorter in the dance world, less shorter intros and outros, because you don't need it as much, especially with all the new technology.
You don't have to line anything up.
And, I think songs are getting to the point, and the audience has a bit of a shorter attention span now. So the drop needs to, happen. They're expecting things to happen, and you have to play with that framework, break some of the rules. But absolutely, touring shapes everything. And
so you're seeing that go into your songwriting and production?
Everything. And especially with like the placement of vocals, and it takes time to break a new song in. So I'll do a lot of road testing. I'll spend months just to get the sonics right, playing on the road, because every sound system is so different. And one sound system some overzealous engineer may have the compression really cranked up, and you go, oh my God, what did I do to the master on this? And you go back, and then your mix will be too soft because you eased up on it. So you take every sound system with a grain of salt. So I factor everything in. And
We were talking before the show about just the issue of, do you mix in stereo, do you mix more mono for the live world? Explain to our audience a little bit of your thoughts on that, because I thought it was fascinating, your answer.
It's an interesting debate because I hear so many different opinions from guests
too.
on this show. But I think with dance, for me personally, I want it to get as wide as I can and still sound amazing in mono. And I think you can have your cake and eat it too. Just like you can have a really loud master and just automate the volume and have quiet sections. You know, it's not like this loudness war that people talk about all the time. I mean, you can have it loud, you can have it soft.
The loudness war
just
did
automation.
last year. It's gone. It's done.
Yeah.
We're over that one.
It's
we got better wars now.
Yeah, it's different. There's other wars to fight. And
on In the Air, which is one of my favorite things I've heard you do, album and song. On the song, the echoes on that are great. I love. In fact, I'm giving you fair warning. I'm stealing those, so you're going to hear them on the next 5 things I mix. So if you're out there and need a mix, you want those echoes, let Herb know, because I'm going to use those. Oh, 10 mixes. Let's make it 10 mixes, Herb.
Okay, no problem.
They are really, really good. And I want our audience to go listen to that song if they're not familiar with it. They should be familiar with it, because the tension and build, the tension and release, the journey you take me on. There's just it's a school and a course in the dance music world. Everything in there is perfect. It's like all the elements of your life came together just perfectly in that song. And that song has the upbeat, the emphasized.
And I simplified it. You know, I think I went through 8 different versions of that, and I wanted a really simple one that just let the vocal kind of shine, let the vocal work with the beat.
It does.
And yeah, I had to kind of like just pull it back and strip it down. You know?
One of the things I say a lot is there's certain forms of music and there's certain songs within forms of music that just are hypnotic. You know, like a classic example in my age group is the group called War. You know, Cisco Kid and those songs were hypnotic, but there's a fine line between hypnotic and monotonous.
Right.
And if you do hypnotic right, you own the world. But when it goes to monotonous, you don't get rewarded for that. You do hypnotic as good as anybody I've ever seen. I mean, there's an organic quality that you lead me things to discover every time I listen to the song. Some guys in the electronic music space I love because I don't have to think. I can just react. I hear it once. I've heard everything, and if I want that mood again, I go back to that song. Right. With you, it's just there's these layers and layers that.
Is that by design?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff's intentional where I think, well, obviously with automation and things, you're opening up your synth sounds and changing things. But to me, it's all about the chord progression. Yeah. If I don't like the chord progression in a track, I don't listen to it. I throw it away. You know, there's so many records I listen to. You know, I do my radio show for Sirius XM and the podcast, and we get hundreds of promos every day, and with the filter through all this stuff. But if I don't like the chord progression, or at least sort of the groove of the track, it's gone. So what I'll do deliberately when I'm making music is instead of just having a basic triad, I'll invert it or have something suspended, or I'll add on notes to create melodic tension. And that changes everything. I mean, just a boring triad doesn't do it for me, you know, or 3 chords like that. But as soon as you add some other bits on there, and I always have to play with 2 hands when I'm composing, which is hard to work on the road. That's another story. But that changes everything. You add 1 more note in there, 2 more notes, without going too jazzy, without doing like 7th chords, and it changes everything.
Wow. Talk a little bit. We have, which we're blessed with, you know, multi-genre folks who watch our show. They come from all kinds of musical walks of life. Tell us about the scene. Tell us about what's going on in the scene, what trends you see, what progressive house is, because it's such a phenomenon that's it's not a phenomenon anymore. It's just a huge part of life, and it continues to grow. Do we have that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge. I mean, I guess 2012, you really saw this, we're calling it kind of the third wave, where it really broke through this time. And I think the difference was college kids were really embracing it. When I was in school at Emerson, I graduated in 03, and it wasn't cool to listen to electronic music. You were weird. You were a tweaker if you listened to electronic music. And college kids weren't embracing it. It was on college radio at the time, and I was doing mix shows back then trying to push it. But It was more of a city thing, and now it's spread to the suburbs. It's all because of social media and you know, just great music coming out and great artists. Kids growing up with laptops and crack software and doing amazing things in their bedrooms and then sharing it with the world. There's this medium, there's this vehicle to get the music out very quickly. And that changes everything. And I think before you just didn't have the tools.
It seems to me too, which is kind of an area that I look at, that you guys, as it becomes corporatized and the business model around it formed, but it feels like you guys are sort of managing that though. It's not overwhelming. You're taking advantage of it. It's giving great opportunities to go do great things. Because at some point in time, those things can take over you, and that major label thing not happening here.
You don't
this
want
is
to be
still driven live.
Event-driven marketing. You don't want EDM to stand for that. So.
Yeah, it's got to be. Well, it's just got to be real. Otherwise, to the audience, they shy away from it. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's got to be real. I think people can kind of smell if something is commercial, or if you're not really composing from the heart. You know.
I'm going to slightly disagree with both you guys.
Okay.
Back when I had the time, I'd go to a club and I'd hear a song and I'd go to myself, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's incredible. It's like just, my body is just absorbed by this thing. And then I'd wake up the next morning around 1 in the afternoon. I'd drive straight to the record store. I'd buy that song. I'd put it on my car and I'd go, this isn't the song I heard last night. What happened? This is weird. I think the difference, part of the difference, I'm teasing about me being right. I think you guys are right, but I'm piling on. I was just trying to be dramatic, Herb.
I got you.
And I think the difference is the quality of cats like you and the obvious guys, Mouse, Skrillex, and all the guys, Showtek, all our friends. You guys have stepped up your game to where it can live in a club with the lights and the sound system and the bass, and it can live in my car at noon on 1 in the afternoon. I think that's the biggest difference. It can play on radio now. Before, the only things that could play on radio was the odd Cher song or the odd Donna Summer song. Now, anything in the electronic space can live on radio, and I think it's a testament to the guys that are creating the music, and I think Ableton had a lot to do with that because we don't have to have 64-bar intros to line things up, and the DJs and DJing changed too. It's no longer turntable, so it's your show. I don't know why I'm taking and monopolizing. I want you to do something for me. I think we've got a teaching moment here, Morgan. Possibly, if you agree with me. I think a great entry into the world of electronic dance music is through remixes. Cease and Desist was the first thing that exposed me to you. And I think that's valid as a teaching moment, as a method to get other people in. Is that something you would say?
That to me was boot camp. I mean, literally, like bootleg camp. It was, do the remixes. I didn't have the parts. So, and I think even one of the artists got mad that I did a remix of their track. I won't mention who it is, but it's like you go in there, it just felt it. I would just sort of filter out the low end on the original recordings, like the Coldplay one, and I hired a publicist. I put my own money into this. I made CDs. I hired a graphic designer, and I pushed it out there.
Is that responsible for the beginning part of your success?
It is, and I didn't even know until later, though. I mean, the whole Tegan and Sarah thing happened because of that. A lot of my relationship with KCRW and really cool radio stations happened because of that. But it was funny. I didn't find out till later. People didn't tell me. They just hired me for remixes, and I asked them how. Years later, 10 years later, I said, "How did you get into my stuff?" And it was that.
Well, it wasn't just that. That was a pretty spectacular thing when I first heard it, because I come from the remix world too. Wolf and Epic, a couple of early cats from the '90s. My first big hit was a remix, and so my heart's in that world. And so it is a valid way for someone to break into that world, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of guys, you can start out doing a mashup or a bootleg mix that's just combining different songs. You can start there and then really make your name with a remix that you've done with someone's a cappella. You see a lot of guys like Avicii and Zed are blowing up through contests initially, if you go way back. And you think that would kind of taint the process, like it's American Idol or whatever, but you come back, everybody forgets that, and then you've developed your career. So I think anything that can create that tipping point for you to get your name out there, because there's a lot out there.
One of the things that I notice about your process is that you're deliberate. Like you're bringing sort of a plan and a strategy, both musically and from a business standpoint, all that kind of stuff.
Musicality.
And yeah, musicality, but also what's going to work. You know, when you hired the publicist early and you put your own money in, that was specific about how to get to a goal. And I looked at the sort of swath of names that you've done remixes on, Coldplay and, you know, Katy Perry and Madonna and all that. You approach these remixes with a philosophy, or is it different for each record, or because it seems like it's an important part of what you do.
Every time it's different. I mean, not every record is deliberate or planned. You know, and sometimes you know, maybe I just follow my own muse too much with the remix, where it's so different from each one remix to the next and what they're expecting, especially a major label, because they're treating a remix more of as a marketing tool rather than art.
Yeah.
So a lot of the remixes don't see the light of day. They get pushed to the Billboard Top 100 and then forgotten.
Right.
So you know, that's one reason I've stopped doing remixes like that. I've focused on originals, and yeah, you could write the most amazing hook. I would be adding new hooks to the records, and then it's not even for sale. It's like it's sent as a CD single and then it's gone. So it's cool. You know, it's a good experience. You do that and you do your own stuff.
All the cats out in the space that can morph into a slower tempo with different drums, I think you're at the head of that list. I think when you come visit us in a year, you're going to get out of the above 120 zone and have an 80 beats per minute with a regular drum track major #1 record, because you think that way.
Well, at the head of the list, we're going to see how he does as an athlete. He's a Boston guy.
He's
went to school in Boston.
Auditioning for the next audition.
And Boston's a big sports town, so even though he's out here now, which is cool. You got your arm, you know, lubed up and ready to roll?
I do. Are you ready, my friend?
Ready.
Throw the pitches.
Bass.
Massive.
Ooh. Pads.
Omnisphere.
Ooh.
That was my ooh. You stepped on my line.
I'm doubling it.
Analog.
Vintage warmer. PSP vintage warmer.
Ooh. Okay. Festival club.
Well, you know, if you want to do free association thing, we'd say, I would just say distortion and tension.
Okay. Plug-in.
A plug-in to a plug-in. Plug-in, I think, enabler. That's what it is.
Okay. Good one. Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't very good, Herb. Vocals.
Maserati VX1.
Ooh, my boy.
Yeah.
808.
You know, I think I don't do a lot of straight 808s, but actually, if I were to create one kind of drum, bassism, to create the actual drum.
Okay. Your favorite virtual synth?
Silent.
Reverb.
Rob Papin.
Yeah.
Really good plugin. Yeah.
The cheapest gear you ever used on one of your hits?
Probably a shaker.
The egg, little egg.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm out of them, Herb. That was so fast, I ran out.
Well,
I've never run out. That was 11 of them. Or 10 of them.
It was bat speed at the top, then he stole some basses, and then bat speed at the end. That's why it went so fast. Well done.
I love Silence, by the way.
Yeah. Where did that guy go? He disappeared.
I don't know, but it's
We
so
need him back.
musical.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And easy on the computer too.
I got a question for you before we head to Changor over in the CO. On remixes, I'm fascinated by them. Just to finish that train of thought and help someone that's 14 where you were in your log cabin. What would you suggest the first step would be? Should they just start with an existing complete song and roll the low end off, or should they? Because now they've got access to vocals all over the place.
I would say you just want to create something that makes people run to the booth and say, "What are you playing right now?" Okay. So whatever form that is, whether it's an amazing mashup, an original, I think it's good to start with bootleg mixes first, and don't ask for permission. I was really scared I was going to get sued with cease and desist. That was the whole point of the title. But didn't get sued, and because it is illegal to manufacture CDs with bootleg remixes. So, but you don't need to do that anymore. So,
Yeah, screw 'em.
yeah.
Let's introduce in our corner office. We're going to have some of our folks who work with us and other folks, and maybe open it up to some of our fans if they're in LA to maybe come in and do corner office. So we've got a guy who's just a big favorite of ours, right?
One
When
of
you
our
say,
favorites,
yeah.
I'm anticipating. I'm holding my breath to see if he says your name right this
I'm
time.
not. I'm not going to. It's his name. His correct name is Chongor.
I know.
And so let's introduce Chongor, who's a big fan of the EDM space. And
How are you guys?
Really want to do this. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
We're good. We're good. Good to see you. Fire away from Morgan.
Cool. The first question is from Emile Gervais. What do you do when you run out of inspiration and need something to get out of the infinite drum loop type of rut?
I think the most important thing, you want to work quickly and with some limits. And I have templates, and I'm not stuck with one template. I have multiple ones, whether it's like a pop structure I'm working on or more of a house thing. So the most important thing, I think, is just work on a chord progression until it sounds right, and don't move to the next step until you're really happy with that. And I'm not stuck with just an 8-bar loop or whatever, but I like to have 8 or 16. I work in 8-bar chunks. And but in terms of like writer's block and getting past that, I think you always have to give it a break. You have to refresh your palette, listen to a variety of things. I have a playlist in iTunes with songs chosen deliberately for that, for different keys, different tempos. Listen to white noise, listen to pink noise, whatever.
You got me there. We'll talk about that after your segment.
Chongor, give us another one.
Mark Swan wants to know, when you say use a limiter on every channel, are you boosting it to each limiter or just controlling peaks? What is your reasoning behind using a limiter on every channel?
Just controlling peaks, and I really like Saturator in Ableton. It's unbelievable, totally underrated plugin. And I use that on almost every track just to kind of control things. But it's tricky because every meter is different, and every DAW, like some freak out and it's not clipping, but it thinks it is. I don't know who to trust, so it's probably better to err on the safe side. But yeah, I just do it to chop the peaks, and then and I start all my templates with the faders down, so like -6, -8. And that's less clicking and moving things around later on.
I hear a lot of sound toys in your work. You love those guys, don't you?
Yeah, they're from Vermont, from Burlington,
Oh,
where I grew up.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hometown folks.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sound toys plugin?
I think Echo Boy or Phase Mistress. So I made some presets for Phase Mistress. For them, so yeah.
Are you going to do a set for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's one already. It's a free set of presets. It's out
That's
there.
right.
Yeah.
Chongor, give us another one.
This one's from Pesto 2012. How do you go about creating transitions for your tracks? Do you input them as you create the track, or do you make a bass track, then add them in later?
I guess it depends what kind of transitions. If it's transitions within sections of the song, I do a lot of turnarounds and things where I drop the drums out. I punch holes in the arrangement, and then maybe reverse sounds, high pass sounds, do chromatic automation so the pitch is rising or falling. Maybe record some automation with a knob to move around. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Yeah.
One more. Jordan Pollock wants to know, what's your method for layering kick drums?
I think, one person gave me a bit of advice in that to keep the kick drum pure is one technique that's really good, where you just start with a really amazing kick drum and don't pile 4 or 5. Yeah. But a lot of guys stack, and that's cool too. It's different. I think you need to play around with the phase and the timing of things, and that's what I love in programs like Ableton, where you can nudge the timing. You can punch in the timing, just by the delay or moving it ahead or back, especially with claps. I'll move claps forward. So with kicks, I like to start with a really good top kick. That's absolutely the most important thing. That's the metronome for the mix. And it's got to have a really snappy sound to it, so maybe I'll compress that a little more. I won't do a ton to it. And then, the low end, we'll use something that's like bassism. I'll use to have, because you can choose what note it is, so you make sure that kick is, that fundamental is in key. Or if it's not the root note, you could go maybe do a 3rd or a 5th up from it, and it'll still sound good a lot of the times.
It's so important in drums.
Yeah.
Two quick things. One, aren't you creating a book or some information that's going to tell us about that?
Well, right now, it started when I created this Twitter account for doing tips that I've just sort of collected over the last 15 years. I've been writing down little nuggets that I got from cool shows like this, or Future Music, or Tape Op, magazines, talking with people, studio experiences. Yeah. One of the tips is to watch the show, by the way. But
then that's okay.
That's the payback there.
I hate to tell you, big fella, I sold him to him a year ago.
Thanks.
I'll give you your $20.
But it's twitter.com/mpquicktips if you want to do it. So it's a tip a day. So it's twitter.com/mpquicktips. And you can, so it's one sort of nugget of advice every day for a year.
Oh, cool.
And there's more than a year now, so maybe there's 300 or 400. So I'm turning that into a book, like a pocket book that you can take with you. You can read on the plane because you got to turn off your phone and all that stuff.
Yep.
And I really want this to be like the music Bible, that every studio has this. I think I can do it in a way where it's not subjective. Like, I mean, these are universal, simplified things, and it was kind of inspiring. Like, if you've heard of the Brian Eno's oblique strategy cards,
classic.
they're cool. I don't use them as much as I thought I would, and they're amazing to have in the studio for if you need that inspiration, like shuffle the deck. But these are a little more concrete, a little less vague, and they can get pretty granular with certain techniques, but also be, bigger, more general concepts like stick to the rule of 3. Something JJP, Jack Joseph Puig, told me. Stick to 3 major elements. And so yeah, it'll be an app eventually, but it's going to start as a book, and I'm just sort of working on it right now. So.
And I was going to say, what's next? That's partly what's next. Is it more touring, more production?
Yeah, more touring. It's a big summer festival season, so I'm playing all the EDCs and doing a lot of that. Work on the next album.
Can we get tickets and come see?
Yeah, anything. Seasons pass. You got a seasons pass. Any show you want.
Listen, that's valuable. That makes you big your home.
Yeah. You might get to rip the show off free.
These good shows always fly by. They just go like amazingly fast. We often want to see if you ever have time that you'll do stuff for our audience and other things that we've got coming up. I don't know if you have the time to do that, but we would be so honored if we could call you and say, hey, Morgan, come do this with us, or come be on a panel, or come teach people. Can we
Absolutely.
lean on you for that?
Of course.
We're honored to have you, man. It gives us a certain kind of validity, and to find out really game changers in the space. It's just been a great hour, huh?
Man, you know what? Yes, the electronic dance music world. I'm gonna catch some flack for this, but it's the most creative musical genre right now. Whenever I get dry, whenever I run out of ideas, I go to that world for inspiration. I was teasing a little bit about ripping off those vocal echoes, but for 20 years I've been ripping off the EDM world. Whenever I hit a dry spell, you can go back to some of my big hits like Get the Party Started, Pink. That's a complete EDM ripoff on my part. I mean, Linda did the heavy lifting, but I just piled onto that. It's a great space right now.
Yeah,
it really
fascinating.
is.
It's fascinating to watch. Fascinating to have people here, and it's not going away. So get used to us being on your text and stuff and going, oh, damn, there's Herb and Dave again. Man, thanks, Morgan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're having you back. Dave, take us home.
Guys, I want to share something with you at the end here. When you get quick tips by Morgan, don't just buy it to learn what to do, but sometimes for me, just knowing that a cat I respect does the same thing I do is a bigger reward to me than learning what he does. Sometimes that confirmation that I did do this like JJP did or like Alan Meyerson did in the early part of my career, that was more valuable than knowing what they did, because it let me know that I was kind of in the same state. I wasn't in the same area code, but maybe the same state as these guys. So all of this has importance on multiple levels. As always, check this one out again. A lot of good meat, and we'll see you next week.